Okay, you beautiful New Zealanders. Well, today we're going to carry on with our series on the Treaty for Dummies. So if you've come to a place where you're looking to understand the treaty in a very simple, easy to understand kind of way, then you found the right place. Today we're looking at Article 1 of the treaty, Part 2. We did Part 1 a few days ago, so just look at that if you missed it. We've also been talking about this, which is David Seymour's Treaty Principles Bill brings us as a nation to a fork in the road in our history. In my view, it's the most significant bill to be debated by all New Zealanders since 1840. This bill is going to ask Kiwis whether they want to turn left or right at that fork in the road. Now, there's the bus called New Zealand. If we take a left turn, we get tribal rule, we get class society marrying the rest, we get one law for Maori, another law for everyone else, we get apartheid, separatism and racism. We take a right-hand turn, we go back to democracy, we go back to equality, one law, all people are equal, we go back to one law for all, and we get a colourblind society. So really we've got to decide which way we want New Zealand to go. If David's bill is unsuccessful, we carry on down that left-hand road, and it's going to get worse. And if David's bill is successful, then we make a sharp right turn and we recover. So here are 3 questions for us. Which of these 2 roads is mandated in the treaty? That's a good question. Which one of these 2 roads honours the treaty? Is David's Principles Bill taking us back to the original meaning and intent of the treaty or not? That's the 3rd question. This is the 3rd question we want answered in the Treaty for Dummies series. So I'm going to answer those 3 questions for each part of the 5 parts of the treaty. So let's go and do that. Because there's a lot of groups around the place who are saying, you know, honour the treaty. And only one of us can be honouring the treaty. It's either David Seymour or it's that group. So to answer these questions, these 3 questions, there's only one place to go. Where's that? It's to the treaty itself. So let's do that. Like I've said, the treaty has 5 parts. It has a preamble, an Article 1, an Article 2, an Article 3, and it has an affirmation. I'm going to keep this very, very simple. I'm going to make a video explaining each one of these 5 parts, so 5 videos in total. Today's video, video 3, is going to be an explanation of Article 1, Part 2. At the end of this video series, we'll know whether the treaty mandates a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn at the fork in the road. We'll also know whether or not David Seymour's bill honours the treaty, which is so important. So here it is, the Treaty for Dummies. Let's do it. So here is Article 1, the Chiefs of the Confederation of United Tribes. Now, we dealt with that term in the last video. And the other chiefs who have not joined the Confederation cede to the Queen of England forever the entire sovereignty of their country. Now, it's interesting that that was the very first article. Why? Because it was top of mind for the British. It was the first article, and it's the one that they wanted more than anything else. It's the one that they had to get. They had to get sovereignty to carry on in this country. So let's have a look at some definitions here. Cede means to give up or to give somebody control. Sovereignty can generally be defined as supreme authority. Somebody in this country has got to have supreme authority. It can't be 2 groups. It can't be somebody in a partnership. It can't be dual government. Somebody's got to be supreme. Supreme means to the top. Number 3, it means autonomy. It means somebody has autonomous control. Autonomy means one person, a body or one group of people, namely the British. Number 4, a body that has the ultimate authority over other people and to change existing laws, says one definition. The power of a country to control its own government, says another definition. The power of or authority to rule. Now, I've not referenced any of these definitions because you can check them out by going to any standard dictionary. That's what those terms mean. Okay, now that we know the definitions of cede and sovereignty, here are 4 key questions. These are really important. Does this article teach, instruct, convey the idea that Maori would be self-determining, having their own government alongside the British government? No. To have dual government contradicts the meaning of the word sovereignty. If you are sovereign, you govern alone. Number 2, or that the Queen entered into a partnership with Maori. No, it is impossible to be the sovereign and in partnership. These concepts are mutually exclusive. If you are sovereign, you have no partners. Number 3, does this article mandate that Maori would have control over any of the resources of the country other than those they owned privately? No. When the chiefs ceded sovereignty, they gave to the British the right to govern all the natural resources of New Zealand on behalf of all the citizens of this country. That's what sovereignty means. The issue of the governance and management of privately owned resources or property was dealt with in Article 2. We'll get to that shortly. Number 4, does this article mandate that Maori only gave permission to the British to govern settlers but not Maori? No. Ceding sovereignty, by definition, meant that the chiefs gave to the British the authority to rule over all the citizens of the country, including all Maori. You know what? It's impossible to be sovereign and only rule over half the people. Such an idea is oxymoronic. It's like saying, here's a four-sided triangle. Just doesn't fit. For sovereignty to mean sovereignty, it's all or nothing, and that's the truth. So here's some history to start with. There's Captain Hobson. He left England on the 20th of August 1839 with his wife and children. Now, some accounts say the 24th, some say the 22nd, but let's say he left England in late August 1839, and that is a picture of his ship. It's actually a model of his ship. I couldn't find a picture of the HMS Druid. That's the ship he sailed here on from England to Australia, and then he changed ships from Australia to New Zealand. He went on the HMS Herald on that last leg. Now, when he left England, he was given a 4,200 word brief by Lord Normanby, the Colonial Secretary in London. There's Lord Normanby. We could say that Lord Normanby was Hobson's boss, and the brief he gave Hobson, was Hobson's job description. By this I mean that this brief gave specific instructions to Hobson about what he was expected to achieve when he arrived in New Zealand. So it was pretty clear. So here is an extract from Lord Normanby's instruction to Hobson. The Queen disclaims every pretension to seize on the islands of New Zealand. What does that mean? It means that the Queen could have, if they wanted to, just come and seize these islands, wipe out the Maori and make it a colony. Or they could push the Maori aside and say, you can have the land you're enjoying and occupying and we'll have the rest, and so on. But they didn't do that. The Queen said no. Now, what was going on here? Well, in Britain, the Christian influence on Parliament was very, very strong, and they'd started what they call humanitarian colonization, which was really taking care of the native people in every country that they went into. And so that's what's going on here. Unless the free intelligent consent of the natives expressed according to their established usages shall first be obtained. So she says, you guys, Hobson, are not to do anything unless you get the free intelligent consent of the Maoris. Then he goes on to say, you, Hobson, will therefore frankly and unreservedly explain the reasons which should urge them, that's the chiefs, to acquiesce. In other words, the chiefs had invited the British here to govern them, to be a parent to them, to be a guardian to them, to sort out this country and introduce government here and laws here and so on. And so Hobson was charged with explaining to Maori why they should do this. And he did that. And this is the most important bit, and the impossibility of Her Majesty extending to them any effectual protection from what? Protection from each other, protection from unruly settlers, protection from the French, and the impossibility of Her Majesty extending to them, that's Maori, any effectual protection unless the Queen be acknowledged as the sovereign of their country. Now, I've put the whole brief from Lord Normanby in the description of this video, so you can read the whole thing yourself. This provides us with the most compelling evidence that Maori ceded sovereignty. Lord Normanby's instructions were crystal clear. He was definite. It was essentially get sovereignty for the Queen and for Britain completely and forever, or the deal is off. We are pulling out of New Zealand. No sovereignty, no treaty. If you don't get sovereignty, said Lord Normanby, don't bother going any further. Leave Maori to self-annihilate. He didn't say this, but this is me paraphrasing. Leave Maori to self-annihilate, because that's what they were doing. Leave them to the French, because the French were lurking around New Zealand wanting to take over. Leave them to the unruly settlers, because there was a problem with them. Pull out. The fact that the treaty exists and Britain did not pull out of New Zealand but carried on to what we have today tells us emphatically what really happened on February the 6th, 1840. Maori ceded sovereignty. In the mind of the British, they got sovereignty. And that is as clear as a bell. Esteemed Justice Anthony Willey said this, without that recognition of British sovereignty, there would have been no treaty, and the British would have sailed home, leaving these islands to the tender mercies of the French, who were waiting in the wings. And there's the reference. There's some of Anthony Willey's qualifications, so good one. The British knew that it would be impossible to have two governments in a colony. That sovereignty, quote, meant only one group, Maori or the British, could have ultimate control. You know what? One can't achieve sovereignty and be partially in control. Britain would never have entertained that contradiction. Partnership and sovereignty are mutually exclusive concepts. That Maori in 1840 were not capable of governing a nation, or even themselves. They had been in New Zealand for 700 years, and the pinnacle of their achievement was self-destruction. The British knew that Maori were described by the British as a collection of petty warring savages. There's the reference. So why would Britain, the greatest nation in the world, have entered into a partnership with a group of petty warring savages? The answer is they didn't, and that's the truth. There are 8 proofs that Maori ceded sovereignty. Proof number 1. Britain carried on colonising New Zealand after 1840. They'd been told to pull out if Maori did not cede sovereignty. We've just explained that. Proof number 2. The speeches of the chiefs on the 5th of February 1840. Missionary William Colenso, there he is on the right, attended the treaty debate among the chiefs on the 5th of February 1840 and the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi the next day. He wrote an account of the events, including recording all the speeches that the chiefs made. When one studies these speeches, it's patently obvious that the chiefs understood what ceding sovereignty meant. For example, the first speaker was TAKEOVER, chief of the Ngāti Kawa tribe. He said this: "Health to thee, O governor. I'm not pleased towards thee." In other words, I don't want your treaty. "I shall never say yes to your staying." In other words, I don't want your treaty. Were we to be in equality, then perhaps TAKEOVER would say yes. He says, basically, if we were equal, then TAKEOVER would say, yes, you can stay. But for the governor to be up and TAKEOVER to be down, isn't that a reference to sovereignty? Of course it is. Governor high, up, 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 and TAKEOVER down low, small, a worm, a crawler. No, 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 O governor. So that's obvious that TAKEOVER was fully understanding what the concept of sovereignty was. They were going to put a governor and a government over the heads and over all of New Zealand. And TAKEOVER didn't want that. The next chief was Te Raha of the Ngāti Rehia. He said this: "No governor for me, for us native men. We only are the chiefs, the rulers. We will not be ruled over." What? Thou a foreigner and I down? Thou high and I Te Raha, the great chief of the Ngāpuhi tribes, low? No, no, never, never. Well, isn't that clear? So Te Raha, he was just absolutely clear that he would never have somebody ruling over him. And he was talking about sovereignty. Te Heuheu refused to sign, his reason being, that's him there, that it would place the mana of Te Heuheu beneath the feet of a woman. Who's the woman? The queen. So he knew what sovereignty was all about. He said, I know what this means. If we sign this document, then we're going to be underneath the queen. She's going to rule over us. And he wouldn't have a woman doing that. There's the reference. That Maori present at Waitangi understood what was meant by kawanatanga, that's the Maori word for sovereignty, is evident from the remark of one chief that if kawanatanga was ceded, he would thereafter have to ask permission of the British authorities to paddle his canoe across the river. And there's the reference. So the conclusion is that Maori chiefs knew what sovereignty meant exactly. There was no confusion in their mind, it was crystal clear. And when they signed that treaty on the 6th of February 1840 and elsewhere around New Zealand, they knew what they were signing up to. The speeches of the chiefs clearly illustrate two important points. First, the chiefs knew exactly what ceding sovereignty meant. This being so, then when they signed the treaty, they ceded sovereignty. Second, their speeches put to bed the propaganda pumped out by activist and politically motivated historians like Paul Moon and Ned Fletcher that the chiefs only gave the British permission to govern settlers and not Maori. How so? Think about it. If the British were only going to rule over the settlers, the chiefs would not have expressed great concern in their speeches about being ruled over. The fact that in their speeches they showed great concern about being ruled over proves beyond doubt that they understood that by signing the treaty, they were giving the British the authority to do just that. See? Boom! There's a fantastic argument. You can't argue with that. The following is just a small sample of leaders in our country who would agree with my analysis that you're watching here. There are many more, but in this video I'll just give you 3. In the next video, I'm going to show you the opinions of the best historians in the world on this question of Maori ceding sovereignty. So get ready for those. Their writing is just stunning. You're going to enjoy that. So here we go. Here's a sample of 3 leaders in New Zealand who would agree with my analysis. The first is David Longi. He said this: "Did Queen Victoria for a moment think of forming a partnership with a number of signatures, a number of thumbprints and 500 people? Queen Victoria was not that sort of person. We can have a democratic form of government or we can have indigenous sovereignty. They can't coexist and we can't have them both." Now that is exactly what the British were thinking in 1840. It was inconceivable that they would think of a partnership in 1840 with anybody, let alone Maori. Winston Peters, he says this: "Does the treaty mean partnership? It is truly staggering that a claim of partnership for Maori is being made based on the Treaty of Waitangi when Queen Victoria was not in partnership with anyone in the UK or the British Empire on the day before the 6th of February 1840 or the day after." Well said, Winston. And here's a really heavyweight guy, Judge Anthony Willey. He's a retired district court judge, Canterbury University law lecturer. He noted that Maori and the Crown are not partners in any sense of the word. It is constitutionally impossible for the Crown to enter into partnerships with any of its subjects. Well done, Anthony. Okay, let's wrap this up. In today's video, I have shown 2 out of 8 proofs that Maori ceded sovereignty. In the next video, I'll reveal the other 6 proofs. You're going to enjoy those. I want to finish today's video by doing 2 things. One is to give you an update on how we're doing with the cards, and you guys are doing just phenomenally well. I'm so proud of you, and we're having a real impact. And secondly, I want to show you a table we have produced which shows whether or not David Seymour's Treaty Principles Bill honors the treaty, because if it does, we need to support it. So let's go and have a look at these now. Okay, let's go full circle and go right back to the beginning, where we asked the question, does David Seymour's bill honor the treaty? Because that's hugely important. Are we really honoring the treaty with David's bill or not? So here's a table that I put together. Here's David's first principle: the New Zealand government has the right to govern all New Zealanders. His second principle is the New Zealand government will honor all New Zealanders in the chieftainship of their land and all their property. And thirdly, all New Zealanders are equal under the law with the same rights and duties. Now those are David Seymour's 3 principles. So let's see. Does his first principle honor the preamble? Yes. Does his second principle honor the preamble? Yes. Does his third principle honor the preamble? Yes. Why? Because the British promised to set up a government, and that government will be democracy, and in a democracy all New Zealanders are equal. All New Zealanders have their land and property protected, and in a democracy all citizens have the same rights and duties. What about Article 1? Same again with Article 1, exactly the same. All of his 3 principles honour the treaty. So David's going well so far. Next time we're going to look at Article 2, and that's going to be pretty exciting as well. So well done, David, for actually wording your principles so that they truly honour the Treaty of Waitangi as it was signed and understood February the 6th, 1840. Congratulations, mate. Good work. Alright, if you want to see how we're going every day with the website and with the cards, and you giving out the cards, which is so incredibly awesome, just go to our website, which is www.stopcogovernance. There it is up the top there, stopcogovernance.kiwi, and that'll take you to our website. And if you scroll down on our website, it'll take you to a map, and here's the map so far, and it tells you we have a fantastic person doing this for us, and he's just amazing. So you'll notice here on the map, I'll use my little pen here to show you some things. You'll notice here that at the top of the website you have a number. Well, that number actually takes you to 88,315. Those are the cards that have gone out so far. And then if you go over here, those first 3 boxes tell you how many in that region cards have gone out to a particular region. So you can see the Hawke's Bay is 30,000, Waikato 24,000, Auckland 6,800, and so it goes down. So we can see, if you can read all of those on there, Northland, Canterbury, Southland, Bay of Plenty, Wellington, Manawatu, Otago, Taranaki, Marlborough, Gisborne, Tasman, and so the West Coast, Tasman and Gisborne areas are the weakest in the whole country. Now if you go and float your mouse over one of these little red sort of like a bullseye thing on the map on it, click your mouse on there, and you see down the bottom right hand corner a little box has popped up, and it shows you what's happening in Northland. We have 1,670 going out in Kamo, 400 in Onarahi, RD9 in Whangarei 400, Tokerau Bay 2,000, Waipu 335, Wellsford 300, Wangapiro 1670. So the total for Northland is 6,775. So if you do that with every single one, let's take, say, this one down here, float your mouse over that, it says the Hawke's Bay, they got 30,000. There's somebody down there who's just going gangbusters, and we just think that's incredible. The Wellington area, Mangaraki, Papamoa, that's actually in the wrong area, that's Tauranga. Paraparam, Raumati, Tawa, Upper Hutt, total 2,505. So this is a great map being done by one of the guys in our team, and he's so clever, and we're so appreciative of him. If you want to order cards, you can go up to this email address. So we've changed it from a phone number to an email address, and that's cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi. So that's where you get your new cards from. You can email Vicky there. All right, you guys, you're doing a great job. There's now many people out delivering, and don't forget, if you want to order again, I just say email that address there at the top, and it's Vicky at cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi, and she'll fulfill your order for you. Keep going, you guys. We're making an impact, and we have to get David Seymour's bill across the line. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and comment on this video. It really helps us. See you tomorrow. Please share this video with everyone everywhere. The mainstream media should be reporting on the issues I am raising in these videos, but they're not. Why aren't they? Well, they're corrupt. Why are they corrupt? They are collaborating with Maori activists. There's no doubt about that. In the final analysis, the people of New Zealand, that's us, have ultimate power, not the politicians. Did you know that? The people can kick out the people in power and they can put them into power. How are we going to do that? Well, awareness is the key to change. If enough people in New Zealand become aware of the issues I am raising, we can save this beautiful country. So share these videos everywhere so that come the next election, we can vote the right people in and kick out the people who are destroying New Zealand.